Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Rory McNeil, and I'd like to thank you for joining our webinar, How to Empower Your People with Office 365. Stuart Pace, who is our digital workplace practice lead, will be guiding you through the webinar today. But just before we do, a little bit of housekeeping. So we'll be doing some questions at the end if we have time, so please do follow them through. Also, I'd like to give you a brief overview of Superfluid for those of you who haven't really heard of us before. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Brennan IT, founded in 2010. We work with Australian organisations across lots of different verticals, providing them with advice and technology solutions that improve how they operate, make decisions, and service their customers. Now, to do this, we've three practices with deep expertise in each. So first up, we have our customer experience practice. So this is where we provide services around CRM systems, marketing automation, portals, and full suite customer experience platforms. Then we also have our digital workplace practice, which, as just earlier mentioned, is headed up by Stuart, and who we'll be talking about today. So this practice really is focused on kind of how your organisation is operating and finding ways to help you improve efficiencies, collaboration, and increase innovation through the use of technology and innovative processes. Finally, we have our data and insights practice. So this is focused around the way that you make decisions, and we use technology such as business intelligence platforms to enable you to do that. So hopefully that gives you a brief overview of who Superfluid are. Of course, if you've got any questions about what we do and how we can help your organisation, then please do get in contact. But apart from that, I will hand you over to Stuart for the rest of the webinar. Over to you, Stuart.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to this about how to empower your people with Office 365. Just to go across what we're trying to achieve today and help inform you about the Office 365 platform. We want to talk to you about how to utilize your investment in Office 365 and how to empower your people to engage in a modern digital workplace. We've all listened to the Microsoft promise about Office 365 being a productive suite. Throughout this session, I want to touch base on a few of the points, how Office 365 enables the 21st century worker, Office 365 as a digital workplace, and the key thing there is to help guide you in looking at the Office 365 suite on a different point of view, and the features that come with the platform that you're most likely aware of already, and how to utilize that and get started. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about the Office 365 suite of products. These are the key applications that we see within the product suite that are being used on a regular basis. More and more are coming. Every 6 months we see new features or advancing the features that you see on screen. But the key point here I want to make is each of these products can be collated into particular groups, such as Dynamics for CRM, file storage, which is SharePoint, OneDrive, and Delve, and the Office suite, which typically is where we start our journey into Office 365 with Exchange and Office applications, and moving into the chat and conferencing area. So as you can see, this wheel sort of tries highlighting what the business application is for each of those products there. So today we'll cover off quite a few of these in more detail. We're not going to talk about all of them because there's a lot there, so we don't want to take you through that whole journey just yet. So first and foremost, we've seen the products now, and what I want to share with you is our experiences from talking with customers, the problems they've seen, and the common themes that keep arising throughout our discoveries with projects. Now, each customer approaches the digital workspace differently, although we usually bring them back to the following statements. So we want to manage and communicate change. We want to improve our knowledge sharing, and we want to mature our current processes and enable them to scale as our business grows. So how do we do this? We quite often see customers identify with one of those sort of themes mentioned above, from how much knowledge they currently have about Office 365, but also what departments looking at trying to improve, who's actually trying to improve within the business, sort of set some guidelines and some information about the strategic view moving forward. So on the next slides, we're going to look at each of these in more detail. We're going to look at usually the problem statement that comes with it, the methods of how we can deliver those outcomes, and the Office 365 applications that can support delivering that to the modern workforce. So first, we're going to talk about the conversation around manage and communicating change. So this is all about how we want to inform our staff and communicate with each other across the business easier. Why is this? And what are the main drivers for this change? So in an organization, we see many different external elements driving change within the business. So one of the key ones is the market. So as the digital marketplace changes and products become easier, we see people looking at trying to leverage that to work better, be more productive, and take some of those pain points of the old IT services point of view of delivering communication across your network. Other ones, companies feel outdated. They're still using file servers. They're still using email as their main communication platform. And these classic systems of getting information to the users or the people in your organization is starting to, become tired. It's starting to not be organized, and you want to move forward. Other ones are, we're acquiring businesses. How do we merge other bits of information from acquisitions? And, the final one, as a business, we want to always evolve, and we want to bring our people the best way to get to the information they need to on a day-to-day basis. So how do we achieve this with Office 365? So we break this down into two types of communication channels that we focus on. The first being a one-to-many channel. So this is typically information that is updated less frequently. We want to share that information across the wider audience in the organization. So how does Office 365 enable this within that platform? So SharePoint's the key one here. The product has evolved considerably over the last year. The changes are really positive, and we're seeing really good movement within this solution for organizations to share and be less driven to the desktop environment. So SharePoint now offers their new platform guide called SharePoint Hub sites. These are the new building blocks for intranets on the Office 365 platform. It brings together related sites and enables us to roll up news and activities across those sites, provides improved search capabilities, not just in the singular site, but across all the related sites within that hub, and create cohesion with shared navigation and look and feel across all the sites. The benefits with hub sites, communication sites, and team sites is that now we can provide a common experience across all the different types of devices and operating systems, hence working on mobile much nicer than our historic classic SharePoint. The second type of communication is more collaborative. It focuses on the many-to-many conversations we have in our office. How we do this, how did we do this previously? We used to send emails. The experience and confusion around, I send a document and someone else does an update, sends the email with the new document. So that classic way of working caused frustrations and time management to keep all that aligned. Over the years, Microsoft have tried to improve this with tools like Yammer, removing the need to email message information across the platform. But now we're seeing the evolution of Microsoft Teams. These applications help people engage with those that need to work together on a day-to-day basis. Microsoft Teams, though, is quickly becoming the digital hub for communications across the organization. So this provides us access to one-on-one and group conversations, all in the one interface. We can do all our meeting management and meeting recordings within that one interface and sharing that across Stream and publishing that. And also incorporating files, SharePoint and SharePoint file systems into that single interface, so you don't need to go much further on those collaborating groups. So I just wanted to show you some of the ideas of how we go about and what it means to you using SharePoint and a digital hub site. So as you can see, we're going to look at the business from a different point of view with SharePoint hub sites. So we look at a company hub or a corporate hub being the public communication platform for the wider business or the wider audience. So up there, that's where we look at producing publications of our information. Then we can segregate different hubs for common interest. So each of those hubs, there's some examples there as you can see on screen, and then they break down into team sites. Now those team sites would normally be a Microsoft Teams team, which creates a Microsoft Teams site, and we can just connect those up to a centralized hub, and they can move across hubs as your organization changes. So unlike the classic SharePoint, you're not stuck in a hierarchical view of your organization structure. You can move these team sites between hubs or create new hubs as your organization changes. Then I wanted to give some examples here of, the modern design and how it works across multiple view scales and devices. So it's a lot cleaner. There's probably a lot more white space than what you're used to in terms of classic SharePoint. It's fits much more along with a modern web page and providing information. What it does do is that you can see the news event. Those news articles don't actually belong to this site. They actually belong to subsequent sites that are joined to that hub. So that's a roll-up feature that we're talking about, is that the publication doesn't actually have to reside within the site presenting. On the right, we can see how that same view rolls through on a mobile device. So now we're not restricted like the classic to be responsive on mobile devices. So that moves us on to our second point. We want to improve knowledge sharing. Now, knowledge is everything within a business. Not one person knows everything about the business to support everyone else. So within an organization, we're looking to improve the knowledge sharing, and for this, we're looking at sort of two lenses of requirements here. The end user. So the end user is looking to improve knowledge sharing with the colleagues around them about information that they're working on, about information they require from others. But then we also see it from an organizational governance point of view. You know, we need to control our data better. We want to manage our data. We need information and audit processes for our data on our network. So this is where we're elevating our standard file shares to have all that capability with them. So the questions that, you know, we commonly see and answer with organizations, you know, I'll just name a few off, which is, you know, like, our people spend a lot of time finding information to get their daily job done. You know, how can we improve that? Our file servers have lost their initial intended structures. This is caused by frustration of the end users not knowing where to upload documents to. Also, over time, it takes someone to continually revise that document structure to keep it aligned. And then from an organizational point of view, we want more governance, we want more security, we want to know what's happening with our documents. And, you know, the information needs to be available for our people when they need it. We don't need interruptions throughout the day to get to the information we want. And we want to improve, as I said earlier, we want to improve our audit capabilities, maybe for standards, but most importantly, probably for self-governance, to make sure we know what's happening with our environment. So with that question, so how does Office 365 help with this? How does it improve the way we work? You know, how do we get to improving the way we work? So this is quite a large, this is where Office 365 is working its hardest, is in this collaborative space and knowledge sharing. So what we'll start with, we'll work through some of the products and sort of explain where their power is. So we look at Delve and Search. So these provide deep insights and search capabilities to find information for an individual. So it not only provides the search capability across all your documents, but with Delve aligned with Search, it provides much more related information. It'll return better results for documents that are with people that I work with closely, so that I communicate with. It'll provide those sort of that information up front. So therefore, it's starting to bring that team aspect. It doesn't, you know, if you've got multiple offices, it doesn't provide someone from Brisbane if you're working in Melbourne with a local group there. SharePoint, OneDrive for Business, and Office all provide, better collaboration suite altogether. It provides metadata management, so we can tag our documents and our items within SharePoint better for search capabilities. We can also enable that to organize our information without a file structure as traditional on file servers. Next, we look at Skype and Teams for communication platform. So as I presented earlier on that wheel, there's, communication is a key factor in the way we work these days. Although we hear, I just work with, this person across a couple of benches, and that's, it's really important to have that one-on-one conversation. What Teams predominantly can improve there is that documentation of that conversation, so we don't lose that history. That's where it's powerful, and it definitely helps across sites, being more collaborative, being more communication, bring that communication, voice especially, not just typing, being able to speak with those people and record it quite easily. Then we look at sort of Planner. This helps deliver task management across our projects and groups. So Planner is a fairly new to the Microsoft Office 365 suite. It falls in line with Microsoft Tasks suite, which includes Planner, To Do, Project Online, and taking all those tasks that get created in there and providing an interface for individuals and group management of tasks. And finally, Power BI. As mentioned earlier, this is about data insights into your organization. So all those suite of products all work really coherently due to Office Groups. So Office Groups has become a key player in terms of how we communicate across the business, how we provide security across our Office 365 tenant. So an example of, just a couple of examples of how we see such improvement in the last, sort of 12 months. We can see, the Microsoft Office suite coherently integrates with OneDrive Sync, as we can see up the top left. It's always on, always collaborating with and co-authoring with anyone else in that document, as long as it's stored in the SharePoint ecosystem. So good communication, you can chat directly with the person or people that are co-authoring with you in that document, and you can live see their change, almost real time see their changes as they're working on that document with you. And then Microsoft Teams. So we love this product. It's changed the way internally for us it's worked, and hopefully changing the way the customers that have taken this on recently. It's really powerful in terms of providing, sharing information, not just on a business sense, but on a human sense. We want our people to be able to work the best they can, the best way they can, and we don't need to force them down a particular route to communicate with the individuals around them. There's certain processes, yes, in place that you need to follow, but in general, the day-to-day conversation with the individuals around you, you want to be able to be nice and fluent and get the information quickly and available. So that's where Teams comes in, and yeah, as I said, it's one of the products we're seeing in the suite that's really taking off today, and it's really working well with the new modern hub, SharePoint Hub sites. So if we look at maturing our processes, so maturing our processes and how do we scale them? This comes down to sort of our old ways of gathering forms or asking for information from people, or a process around contracts or approvals of documents before they go out to clients or internally for policies and procedures. It's strong in terms of maturing that process from email or print and get people to sign it off each as individuals. And we see this as a stage that people are going to from the digital workplace, and we see this in the real near future taking off within not just the Microsoft Office 365 suite, but across its partners as well. So, you know, we want to not disrupt people when we're processing forms or approving documents. We want it to be as seamless as possible. I know you're familiar with the terms workflows and forms, but how is this done in Office 365? And more importantly, how do you manage the process and the stages of this within the Office 365 suite? So the platform is maturing, and we can see that especially in the forms of flow. You'll see this in almost all environments within Office 365 now, from SharePoint to starting to mature into CRM, and it's available to individual users to automate their own processes, not just as an organization. So what is the process that we see with this and moving forward? It's important to evaluate the complexity, the impact and change management of maturing your processes, which means you must understand your processes and have one in place first. Doing it straight to a digital world is probably not going to turn out well. The visibility that you get in terms of human interaction compared to a manual process is low, and you need to understand that process well before we digitalize it and mature that process into a digital workplace. So by using these lenses or factors on each of the processes in your business, is it a good candidate for change is one of the questions we need to ask. What selection of tools best fits that purpose? So, there's many out there. There's the old classic SharePoint workflows. And now the modern, Microsoft Flow and also Nintex workflows. And how do we communicate and train our people for change management? Because it is a big change within the business. So let's talk about each of the. I want to talk about two specifically streams, which is the Microsoft one, because that comes with the Office 365, but also Nintex. So we see the benefits for a relationship between both in terms of your environment. Microsoft provide a great framework for moving simple or more aligned processes without complexities in them in the scale, and that's because Microsoft Forms only provides a 30-day retention of that workflow. After that, it'll fail, whereas Nintex has a much more mature process in place, and that comes with the Nintex cloud. So, and then we talk about how do we convert our forms to digitalize methodologies. So we use SharePoint, Power Apps, Microsoft Forms, or Nintex Forms to provide that. Each have their benefits and their place within the market. So Power Apps is strong at providing basically an application as a form as an application within the Office 365 suite. It can connect up to SharePoint, SQL Server, so you can grow your processes out of that. Nintex Forms is very powerful for content managers to produce those forms. Power Apps requires a lot more knowledge. So Nintex Forms provides much more user-friendly interface to generating. And then we also see Microsoft Forms. So Microsoft Forms is sort of in line with SurveyMonkey examples. So you want to request information from a wide audience and capture that. In order to do that, we can use Microsoft Teams to display that information, those forms. We can use sharing, and with Power Apps, you can deploy. So like for leave forms, CapEx forms, expenditure forms, you can deploy those to mobile devices quite easily using Power Apps. So just to highlight sort of a little bit of a difference in the way they operate. So on the left, we have the combination of Power Apps and sort of Microsoft Flow. So Microsoft Flow is pretty simple these days. They have improved the process there if you haven't played around with it yet. As you can see, the images of leave forms. So you can do complex things with Power Apps and make it much more an application based, providing multiple different types of windows depending on what the activity needs to be done. It does require more knowledge around that. Whereas on the right, you can see Nintex Forms, really straightforward, but what it does do is enable your content managers to build those, and the complex strategies within the workflow is much more mature in Nintex. So if you have complex workflows, this is fairly simple, the one I've got on display here, but you can provide much more complex workflows using Nintex. So just with all that in mind, I just wanted to bring that back to how Superfluid helps engage on each of these themes that we've just talked about. So managing and communication of change. So Superfluid has over the years produced products, I guess an app suite of SharePoint add-ons that we are very proud of. We call it the Intranet Quick Start, and what this enables you as an organization to do is not focus on developing custom apps for your interface. The Microsoft core components are there, but they don't meet all the requirements. So, you know, Superfluid enables you to get started fairly quickly with up and running and broadcasting that the one-to-many communication platform using that methodology. Improving and knowledge sharing. So, this is where we see a big push within the market these days. So we handle digital workspace and content migrations. This is all about looking primarily at governance across your organization using SharePoint, looking at the SharePoint IA design with the modern framework, hub sites, and office groups in mind as the focus. Providing a migration approach and a migration plan. It's really important. Organizations see lots of local files or lots of distributed files across many different storage devices. It's really a task to align that and get that delivered to your end users in an appropriate way that doesn't confuse them. So we take a phased approach with this. We design and help walk organizations through that delivery to specific groups at a time. And then also the final one, probably the most important, training. So a huge focus of ours is to help engage staff in using the new functionality that you're investing in. So uptake of a system is one of our main guidances of how successful the project is. And I think training and change management and helping us with your change management is a huge portion of that. And then maturing your processes and scaling those. So, so, we offer a readiness assessment. We know people are looking at this idea. We know you're looking at this idea, and we're excited that this is something that you're looking at. But one of the things is making sure that you're ready and what types of processes are ready to move to the modern way or digitalized way of working. So yeah, so we're coming towards the end of what I wanted to talk to you about today. And so let's just have a look at what we need, what helps decide to help make that business decision. You need to define your problem statement. What is it that you want to get out of the system? What is it that's causing difficulties within your organizations? What's the impacts it's causing on your organization? That will help really solidify that purpose of what you're trying to achieve. Assess how ready your organization is for change. So we've seen in the past, people jump on some of these things, and IT have decided that's the way it's going. And soon as you roll this out to the wider audience without their input, you lose traction, and it just becomes one of those old classic SharePoint scenarios. It's just our file store, and then we've invested all this money in it. That's not what you want happen out of this. You want to make a positive change for your users. You don't want it to be just another tool in their suite. Gain, as I just talking about, gain that internal support. Talk to key groups within your organization. Get their ideas out of them. Get them enthusiastic about how they work and how they can work better. This will get that momentum and keep that momentum going while you're going through defining the problem. And identify your real non-technical state, the job to be done. That's really important. What is it that we need to get better at? what is it that we want to improve at. So before we even go back to like the Office 365 suite, the tech involved, you really need to identify that problem statement. You need to talk through and identify the processes that will get you to the job to be done. And once you can answer those, then you can start matching that up to those sort of themes that we've talked about and provide that as the business change factor to gain agreement in moving forward to the next phase. So on the back of that, is there any questions that anyone like to ask? If you need to, just type in the chat window for any questions. All right, one of the questions that we've got is, can we just start collaborating on documents? So in terms of that, a lot of people just want to get their documents up to Office 365, and that's perfectly fine. But if that's the case and you want to start working in the Office 365 environment, our method, our answer to that would be look at Microsoft Teams as a first point of call. Start your collaborating experience from that location, which enables you to grow that further and take on more, enable you to move further forward in the future. So yes, you can definitely start with collaborating on your documents, but it's important for you to look at the impact of that, and our recommendation would be look at Teams first. So another one is, can we upgrade from our current SharePoint to the Office 365 suite? And the answer is yes. Although just moving from the classic to classic mode is definitely an option there to do, because classic has its pros to itself. You know, you can customize and theme the whole interface to what you want, whereas in the modern you have a few more design restrictions in terms of theming your site to a degree. So from that point of view, I still believe it's best practice to sort of revisit your governance structure, revisit your IA design, look at the within governance, look at the office groups, the teams that would be collaborating with each other, and that will help guide the Microsoft Hub site design and Microsoft Teams to keep you relevant as Microsoft evolve. Is there any others?
Hi, Stuart. I've got a question here from Matt Parker.
Yep.
So Matt's asking, what add-ons to the standard Microsoft suite are worth considering, such as live tiles or similar?
Yeah, good question. So live tiles is still relevant in this world. We work closely with live tiles and with some customers. They are still relevant because they do provide that level of customization or corporate branding within SharePoint. So there is a place for those in the environment. Nintex is another one with the Nintex Cloud and DocGen and workflows. Other ones are like, they still have their relevance, is what I should be saying. It all comes down to, do you want to, you go for Office 365 suite, you need to have a look at that suite, what it's offering. If it doesn't meet your requirements, then start looking at those add-ons to provide what you intend and what you need it to do. So yes, they still do have relevance today. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions at the moment, thank you. Look, thank you for staying on and listening to me. There's lots of information out there. I hope I was able to sort of bucket a couple of those key themes up and give you some more information about how to approach that. And if you do have any questions moving forward, please contact us. All happy to give you a call and talk to you more one-on-one privately on your use cases out there. All right.